proper sensational celery. It's a bit of a staple in my garden because it's so incredibly useful. I like it chopped up into salads or stir fries, of course, but it's also the starting point to soups, many curries, or simply braised into stews and casseroles. You can't help but love it. Celery isn't difficult to grow and has the potential to keep you in crisp, crunchy stems for months at a time. So here's our sowing to harvest guide to celery. Celery loves a nutritious soil that has been enriched with plenty of compost or well-rotted manure. Wild celery grows in boggy ground, so you'll need to ensure consistent moisture for this thirsty vegetable, while a sunny spot should ensure good even growth. Now there are two types of celery. Trenching celery needs soil mounded up against the stems as they grow to produce those crisp, pale stems. To make this easier, trenching celery is typically grown in trenches, hence the name. But some gardeners aid this blanching process using cardboard tubes, collars or pipes. The alternative is to grow self-blanching celery, which requires none of these extra steps. This makes it a lot easier to grow and the stems are just as tasty. Sow celery under cover from early spring. The seeds are tiny, so you'll need to sow with care and a keen eye. Start by filling pots or seed flats with a good quality seed starting mix, then gently firm it level. The easiest way to sow the seeds is to carefully tap the packet above the surface of the potting mix and watch carefully as the seeds fall. Once you're done, firm the seeds into place. The seeds need light to germinate, so cover them with just the very finest layer of potting mix, or, as I'm using here, vermiculite. This will help to trap moisture around the seeds to keep them from drying out. Water from below, then remove the pots once you can see moisture at the top. Celery seeds need gentle warmth to germinate. If it's still cold, pop them into a propagator set to around 60 Fahrenheit or 15 degrees Celsius, though an indoor windowsill works just fine. Germination is slow and can take up to 3 weeks, so you'll need to be patient. Once they're up, transplant them into plug trays like these, or to buy you a little more time, pot them on into their own pots. Begin acclimatising celery to the outdoors 2 weeks before planting. To do this, simply leave your plants outside for progressively longer each day, taking care to bring them back under cover if frost threatens. Plant them after your last expected frost date. This is important because a sudden cold snap can encourage plants to bolt or flower prematurely before they're ready to harvest. If you've missed the window for sowing, you can often find ready-to-plant celery in garden centres. These guys were more than ready to be planted. They're a self-blanching type, so I set them level with the ground in a block about 9 inches or 23 centimetres apart in both directions. Planting them fairly close together like this will create a lot of shade between them, which will help the stems to blanch. If I was planting a trenching variety, then the trenches would need to be just over a foot or 30 centimetres apart and as deep as possible, ideally a foot or 30 centimetres deep. Once they're planted, your most important task is to keep celery well watered at all times, which will reduce the risk of plants bolting or stems turning stringy. Add a nutrient-rich organic fertiliser as plants are establishing to help to give them a boost. Comfrey pellets are great, as are coffee grounds, tickled into the soil in between plants. You could also lay a mulch of organic matter such as compost between your plants. This will keep the roots cool, help to feed your plants, and lock in that all-important soil moisture. Start earthing up trenching varieties once the stems reach about a foot or 30 centimetres tall, banking the soil up by about 3 inches or 8 centimetres each time until you can earth up no more. Celery's pretty trouble-free, but watch out for slugs early on. Beer traps will tempt slugs away from young plants, and the unfortunate victims can be disposed of as necessary. harvest celery from summer and through the autumn until the first hard frost stops growth. In milder areas, celery may overwinter, producing occasional stems throughout the coldest months, then picking up again in spring before finally stretching to flower. You can harvest plants whole, but cutting or picking individual stems as required will keep plants producing over a longer period.
Celery is a pretty straightforward vegetable to grow. Just remember to keep the soil moist at all times so it doesn't dry out. Pop us a comment below and let us know if you're growing celery this year and what your favourite variety is. Thanks so much for joining me in the garden today. Please take a moment to check you're subscribed and give this video a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. I'll catch you next time.